What if the biggest thing standing between you and financial freedom isn't your salary, your education, or even the economy? What if it's a set of invisible beliefs you've been carrying for years, beliefs so familiar that you've never stopped to question them? Because wealth rarely begins in a bank account, it begins in the mind. Picture two people earning exactly the same income. They live in the same city, they face the same prices, they even started with similar opportunities. 10 years later, one enjoys financial freedom. Money no longer dominates every decision. They have choices, security, and confidence about the future. The other still feels trapped. Every paycheck disappears. Every unexpected expense becomes a crisis. No matter how hard they work, it feels like they're running on a treadmill that never stops. What changed? It wasn't luck alone, and it certainly wasn't intelligence. The difference often starts with something most people never notice: the hidden psychology behind every financial decision they make. That's what this audiobook is about. Not secret investment tricks, not overnight success, but the quiet mental habits that shape the way we earn, spend, save, invest, and ultimately build a life of financial freedom. So let's begin where every lasting transformation begins, not with your wallet, but with your mind. Introduction: Why wealth begins in the mind. Most conversations about money focus on numbers: how much you earn, how much you save, how much you invest. Those things matter, but they tell only part of the story. Long before money reaches your bank account, your mind has already made dozens of decisions that determine where that money will go. Every purchase, every investment, every financial risk, and every missed opportunity passes through a filter built from years of experience, emotion, and belief. Many of those beliefs weren't consciously chosen. Some came from childhood. Some were absorbed from family members who struggled with money. Others grew from watching friends, co-workers, or society define what success should look like. Over time, those ideas become invisible rules. Rules like money is hard to keep, rich people are different, I'll never earn enough. Or perhaps the opposite: if I look successful, people will believe I am. Without realizing it, these quiet assumptions begin directing everyday decisions. The surprising part is that two people can face the same opportunity and walk away with completely different results, not because one is smarter, but because each sees the situation through a different psychological lens. This audiobook isn't about judging those beliefs, it's about uncovering them. Because once you can recognize the mental patterns shaping your financial life, you gain something far more valuable than another budgeting trick. You gain awareness, and awareness is where lasting change begins. Throughout the chapters ahead, we'll explore why people repeat financial mistakes they already understand, why emotions often overpower logic, why patience creates wealth more reliably than excitement, and how small daily choices quietly compound into extraordinary outcomes over time. None of these ideas promise instant riches. Instead, they reveal something much more powerful: the habits of thought that quietly separate those who continually struggle from those who steadily create financial freedom. So, let's begin with the foundation of it all: the stories we believe about money. Chapter 1: The stories you believe about money. Every person carries an invisible financial story. You can't hold it in your hands. You won't find it in your bank account, yet it quietly influences almost every financial choice you make. Imagine asking someone a simple question: what does money mean to you? One person might answer security. Another might say freedom. Someone else could whisper stress. None of those answers describe money itself. They describe the emotional meaning attached to it. That's where the real story begins. Think back to childhood. Perhaps money was discussed only when bills arrived. Maybe every family conversation ended with worry. Perhaps you heard phrases like, "we can't afford that," so often that they became part of your identity instead of your circumstances. Or maybe success was measured by appearances, driving the right car, wearing recognizable brands, owning things that impressed other people. Children rarely question these messages. They absorb them. Over time, those experiences settle beneath the surface, shaping expectations long before anyone earns their first paycheck. Years later, the same patterns quietly reappear. Someone who grew up believing money always disappears might struggle to save even after receiving a raise. Another person who learned that financial security matters above everything else might save consistently but hesitate to invest, allowing fear to limit long-term growth. Neither person is acting irrationally from their own perspective. They're following a story that has been rehearsed for years. That's why changing financial outcomes often requires more than learning new strategies. It requires examining the beliefs underneath those strategies. The difficult part is that these stories rarely announce themselves. Instead, they appear as automatic reactions. You hesitate before negotiating your salary. You justify an unnecessary purchase after a stressful week. You avoid checking your bank account because seeing the numbers feels uncomfortable. In those moments, your behavior isn't driven only by mathematics, it's driven by emotion. And emotion usually arrives long before logic has a chance to speak. Understanding this doesn't mean blaming your past. Your past explains your starting point. It doesn't decide your destination. The remarkable thing about the human mind is that stories can be rewritten. Not overnight, not through positive thinking alone, but through repeated awareness followed by different choices. Every time you pause before making a financial decision and ask yourself, is this decision coming from fear, habit, or intention? You weaken an old pattern and strengthen a new one. That small pause may seem insignificant, yet over months and years, moments like these quietly reshape a person's relationship with money. Wealth often begins this way, not with a winning investment, not with an unexpected promotion, but with a different story. Because once the story changes, the decisions begin to change. And when decisions change consistently, the future changes with them. In the next chapter, we'll explore another hidden force that affects nearly everyone, including highly educated and financially successful people. Why intelligent people still make surprisingly poor financial decisions, even when they know exactly what they should do.
Chapter 2. Why smart people still make bad financial decisions. Have you ever wondered why intelligent people sometimes make surprisingly poor financial choices? It happens more often than most of us realize. A person may understand budgeting, investing, and saving, yet still overspend, panic during a market downturn, or chase the latest financial trend. The problem is usually not a lack of knowledge, it's emotion. Think about the last purchase you made on impulse. Chances are it wasn't because you truly needed it. Maybe you were stressed, celebrating, or simply looking for a quick boost. In that moment, the decision wasn't driven by logic, it was driven by how you felt. The same pattern appears in bigger financial decisions. When everyone is buying, excitement makes us believe prices will keep rising. When everyone is selling, fear convinces us to do the same. We naturally follow the crowd because it feels safer than standing alone. Yet, wealth is rarely built by reacting to every emotion. It's built by making thoughtful decisions, even when emotions are pulling in another direction. Successful people don't eliminate fear or uncertainty. They create habits that keep those feelings from taking control. They follow a plan, save consistently, and avoid making major financial decisions in moments of excitement or panic. Before making your next money decision, ask yourself one simple question. Am I responding to facts, or am I responding to my emotions? That brief pause can prevent costly mistakes. Over time, small moments of awareness become powerful habits, and those habits quietly shape your financial future. Knowledge may tell you what to do, but emotional discipline determines whether you'll actually do it. In the next chapter, we'll explore one of the most overlooked qualities behind lasting wealth, the ability to delay today's pleasure in exchange for tomorrow's freedom.
Chapter 3: Delayed Gratification, the Wealth Advantage. Imagine being offered two choices. You can receive $50 today or $100 a month from now. Many people would take the money today. After all, the reward is immediate. It's real. Waiting feels uncertain. This simple tendency reveals one of the most important principles in the psychology of wealth: delayed gratification. We naturally prefer immediate rewards. Our brains are wired that way. A purchase today feels more exciting than a benefit that may arrive years in the future. That's why saving money, investing consistently, or building a business can feel difficult. The rewards often take time to appear. Yet wealth is usually created by people who learn to resist the pull of instant satisfaction. Consider two individuals with similar incomes. One spends nearly every extra dollar as soon as it arrives. The other saves a portion, invests regularly, and thinks beyond the next weekend. At first, their lives may look almost identical. A few years later, the difference becomes impossible to ignore. The first person has enjoyed more short-term rewards. The second has built options, security, and freedom. Neither outcome happened overnight. Both were the result of repeated choices. This is what makes delayed gratification so powerful. It isn't a single decision, it's a habit. Every time you choose to save instead of spend, learn instead of entertain yourself, or invest instead of consume, you're making a small trade between the present and the future. Those choices may feel insignificant in the moment, but over time they compound. And compounding doesn't just apply to money, it applies to habits, skills, and discipline as well. Financial freedom often belongs to people who can look beyond today's desires and focus on tomorrow's possibilities. Not because they're smarter, not because they're luckier, but because they've learned a skill that many people never fully develop: the ability to wait. In the next chapter, we'll examine how scarcity thinking quietly limits financial growth and why an abundance mindset can open doors that fear often keeps closed.
Chapter 4: Scarcity versus Abundance Thinking. Two people can face the exact same opportunity and see completely different futures. One thinks, what if I fail? The other wonders, what if this works? That difference isn't about intelligence, it's about mindset. A scarcity mindset is built around the fear that there's never enough money, opportunities, or success to go around. People who think this way often make decisions based on protecting what they already have. They avoid calculated risks, hesitate to invest in themselves, and see other people's success as a reminder of what they're missing. An abundance mindset works differently. It doesn't ignore challenges or pretend that money grows on trees. Instead, it starts with the belief that skills can improve, opportunities can be created, and setbacks don't have to define the future. Imagine someone who loses their job. A scarcity mindset says, "My future is falling apart." An abundance mindset says, "This is difficult, but it may also be the beginning of something better." The situation is the same. The response is completely different. This shift in thinking changes behavior. People with an abundance mindset are more likely to learn new skills, build relationships, and look for solutions instead of dwelling on problems. They understand that growth often begins with discomfort. That doesn't mean every risk will succeed. It means every setback becomes a lesson instead of a final destination. Wealth isn't created by hoping for good luck. It's built by believing that your actions today can improve tomorrow. The more you focus on possibilities rather than limitations, the more likely you are to notice opportunities that were always there. Your mindset won't magically fill your bank account, but it will influence the choices that eventually do. In the next chapter, we'll explore the quiet daily habits that separate people who simply earn money from those who steadily build lasting wealth. Chapter 5. The Invisible Habits of Wealth Builders. When people imagine someone becoming wealthy, they often picture a lucky break, a high-paying job, or a brilliant investment. The reality is usually far less dramatic. Lasting wealth is often built through small habits that repeat day after day. These habits rarely attract attention, but over time they produce remarkable results. Think about someone who saves a small percentage of every paycheck before spending anything else. At first, the amount may seem insignificant. Months later, it becomes a routine. Years later, it becomes financial security. The same principle applies beyond saving. Wealth builders regularly track where their money goes. They ask whether a purchase adds real value or simply satisfies a temporary desire. Instead of trying to impress others, they focus on decisions that strengthen their future. Another common habit is continuous learning. Financial markets change, industries evolve, new opportunities appear. People who continue learning are better prepared to recognize those opportunities when they arrive. Just as important is consistency. Many people make good financial decisions for a few weeks, then return to old habits. Wealth builders understand that success doesn't come from occasional discipline. It comes from showing up again and again, even when progress feels slow. The results aren't always visible at first. That's what makes these habits so easy to ignore. But every small decision leaves a mark. Saving a little more, spending a little less, reading instead of scrolling, or investing instead of waiting may not change your life today. Repeated hundreds of times, those choices create a future that looks completely different. Wealth isn't usually built through one extraordinary decision. More often, it's the outcome of ordinary habits practiced with extraordinary consistency. In the next chapter, we'll discover how fear and the comfort zone quietly prevent many people from reaching their financial potential and what it takes to move beyond them. Chapter 6. Fear, Comfort, and Financial Growth. Fear has a way of sounding reasonable. It tells you to wait for the perfect time, avoid taking risks, and stay where things feel familiar.
At first, that advice seems wise, but over time it can quietly keep you from growing. Many people remain in jobs they no longer enjoy because the uncertainty of change feels more frightening than the discomfort of staying. Others avoid investing, starting a business or learning a new skill because they're afraid of making a mistake. The problem isn't fear itself. Everyone feels fear. The difference is how they respond to it. People who build wealth don't wait until fear disappears. They learn to act despite it. They understand that every meaningful opportunity comes with uncertainty, and that mistakes are often part of the learning process. Of course, this doesn't mean taking reckless risks. Real financial growth comes from thoughtful decisions, careful planning, and a willingness to step beyond what's comfortable. Every new skill you learn, every calculated risk you take, and every challenge you face expands your confidence. Over time, what once felt impossible begins to feel normal. Your comfort zone grows with you. When you look back, you'll often realize that your biggest financial breakthroughs started with a decision that felt uncomfortable at the time. Growth rarely happens where everything feels safe. It happens when you're willing to move forward with preparation, patience, and courage. Fear may always whisper reasons to stay where you are, but financial freedom belongs to those who keep moving anyway. In the next chapter, we'll explore how your identity shapes your financial future, and why becoming wealthy often starts with changing the way you see yourself.
Chapter 7. Identity. Becoming the person who creates wealth. Most people try to change their financial results without changing the way they see themselves. That's where progress often stalls. Your identity influences your daily decisions more than your goals do. If you believe you're bad with money, you'll probably avoid budgeting, delay investing, or give up after a few mistakes. Over time, those actions reinforce the same belief. It becomes a cycle. Now imagine someone who sees themselves as financially responsible. They don't make perfect decisions every day, but they consistently return to good habits because those habits match who they believe they are. That's the power of identity. Real change begins when you stop asking, "How can I make more money?" and start asking, "What kind of person do I need to become?" That question shifts your focus from quick results to lasting habits. A person who values learning will keep improving their financial knowledge. Someone who believes in discipline will save even when it's difficult. A person who thinks long-term won't let temporary setbacks define their future. Identity isn't built overnight. It's shaped by small actions repeated consistently. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, saving a little, avoiding an unnecessary purchase, or sticking to your financial plan, you strengthen the belief that you're capable of managing money wisely. Eventually, those actions stop feeling like effort. They become part of who you are. Wealth isn't just something you earn. It's often the result of becoming a person whose daily choices naturally create it. In the next chapter, we'll explore the psychology of investing and discover why managing your emotions can be just as important as choosing the right investment.
Chapter 8. The Psychology of Investing. For many people, investing feels complicated. The charts move up and down, headlines predict crashes one day and record highs the next, It's easy to believe that successful investing depends on finding the perfect stock or timing the market at exactly the right moment. In reality, the biggest challenge is often psychological. When prices rise, excitement can create overconfidence. People begin taking risks they wouldn't normally consider. When markets fall, fear takes over, and selling feels like the safest option. Unfortunately, those emotional reactions often lead to buying high and selling low, the exact opposite of what creates long-term wealth. Successful investors think differently. They understand that short-term movements are a normal part of the journey. Instead of reacting to every headline, they focus on their long-term plan. They know that patience is usually more valuable than prediction. Another important habit is accepting uncertainty. No investment comes with guarantees. Even the best decisions can produce disappointing results in the short run. Rather than chasing certainty, experienced investors manage risk and stay consistent. That's what separates investing from gambling. One relies on discipline, the other relies on hope. The goal isn't to avoid every mistake, it's to avoid emotional decisions that can undo years of steady progress. Over time, calm and consistent actions often outperform dramatic ones. Investing isn't a test of intelligence, it's a test of patience, self-control, and the ability to stay focused when everyone else is reacting. In the next chapter, we'll bring everything together by exploring how to design a life that naturally supports wealth instead of constantly working against it.
Chapter 9. Designing a Wealth-Oriented Life. By now, one thing should be clear. Wealth isn't built by a single decision. It's the result of hundreds of small choices that quietly shape your future. The question is no longer, how do I make more money? It's, how do I build a life that makes smart financial decisions easier? Your environment matters more than you may realize. If you're constantly surrounded by pressure to spend, you'll find it harder to save. If your goals exist only in your mind, they'll often be forgotten. But when your habits, routines, and surroundings support your financial future, good decisions become more natural. Start with simple systems. Set aside savings before you spend. Track your expenses regularly. Continue learning about money, even if it's just a few minutes each day. These actions may seem ordinary, but together they create a strong financial foundation. Just as important, define what wealth means to you. For some, it's owning a home. For others, it's the freedom to travel, spend time with family, or retire without financial stress. If you don't decide what success looks like, you'll spend your life chasing someone else's version of it. Remember, financial freedom isn't about having everything. It's about having enough to live according to your values, without constant worry about money. The hidden psychology of wealth isn't a secret formula. It's the way you think, the habits you repeat, and the choices you make when no one is watching. Change those consistently, and your financial future begins to change as well. Because wealth is built twice, first in the mind, then in reality. Thank you for listening, and remember, the most valuable investment you'll ever make is in the person you're becoming. Chapter 10. The Wealth Mindset That Lasts. Reaching financial freedom isn't about becoming a different person overnight. It's about making better decisions one day at a time. Throughout this audiobook, we've explored the hidden beliefs, emotions, and habits that influence every financial choice. The common thread isn't talent, luck, or a perfect opportunity. It's consistency. People who build lasting wealth don't always earn the highest incomes. They simply develop the discipline to think beyond today. They understand that every dollar has a purpose, every habit has a consequence, and every decision shapes the future. There will be setbacks,
Unexpected expenses will appear. Plans won't always work. Mistakes are inevitable. But setbacks don't define your financial future unless you allow them to stop your progress. Keep learning, keep saving, keep making thoughtful decisions, even when the results aren't immediate. Remember, wealth isn't measured only by the size of a bank account. It's measured by the freedom to make choices without constant financial fear. It's the confidence that comes from knowing your future is being built with intention rather than chance. As you leave this audiobook, don't try to change everything at once. Choose one habit, one belief, one decision that moves you closer to the life you want. Then repeat it tomorrow and the day after that. Because the hidden psychology of wealth isn't hidden anymore. You now understand that real financial freedom begins long before money grows. It begins with the way you think. Change your mind, stay consistent with your actions, and over time, your financial life will begin to reflect the person you've chosen to become.